GM fam, welcome. Hope you all had a great weekend. A lot to celebrate in terms of what's going on over in Curve land. So we'll give you some time to stream in here. Feel free to drop questions and comments throughout. We will keep this going for as long as you keep the conversation happening. And given how interesting and gorgeous all of you are looking this morning, I imagine we can get a record stream going today. So, when I say a lot going on in Curve land, what do I mean? What exactly is going so great? Well, if you didn't notice, Curve is celebrating a record $100 million in lifetime trading fees. This is the trading fees being sent to the users. So some exchanges like to keep the fees for themselves, or rather their investors. Curve is very, very generous. Half the fees go to you, the other half go back to Curve to keep building and powering this great, fantastic service. So there's not many places that are so good at just giving out free money to people, but it's definitely one of the reasons that Curve has got so much loyalty, is that they just keep giving money to people. As it turns out, people tend to like free money. I know I like free money. What's pretty incredible about this also is, if you look at the valuation of a Curve token, it really has two sort of fundamental revenue streams, which is better than like the Uniswap token, for example, has zero revenue streams. But if you stake your Curve as VECRV, you have access to both the trading fees and what some people consider to be the more substantial part, which is the governance value. So governance value means you get bribes. This is really tough to calculate though, because these bribes tend to kind of shift between different platforms, and it's very tough to kind of come up with one source that aggregates and collects all of it. So governance value, even though it's probably the bulk of the value that you would get from holding a Curve token, the trading fees is also a fairly substantial part, and that's the part that we're celebrating today. Just bear in mind that when we talk about 100 million in trading fees, there's plenty more revenue where that came from. Just money waterfalls everywhere here at Curve. So the governance value, as mentioned, no real easy way to catch it. The trading fees, on the other hand, really easy to get a sense of it. You can always go to crv.fi/usecrv, and because this money is literally just money that gets distributed to wallets, it's pretty easy to do the accounting. It always flows through one source, and this, of course, gets spread out to all the different platforms that are staking Curve and whatnot. But just overall a great place to be. Layman's terms, welcome, GM. Glad to have you here. $100 million. This is what we're celebrating today. $100 million in Curve fees. And we're talking about how you can actually get this information yourself if you want to see it. It's pretty reliable. Edon Stern, hello. Good week to us all. Indeed, this is going to be, I think, a great week for Curve, and a great month for Curve as well. This is the month that Curve is going, within 1 month, we're going to see the emissions rate cut for the CRV token. The emissions rate cut, when I've run the numbers, it looks like it actually does have about a 15% impact on Curve price, so you might expect that floor prices may go up 15%, not financial advice, but it could be pretty fun time, especially given that we are in fact going to see this happening August 15th. But it's the Curve trading fees that we're focusing on today. Curve trading fees, as mentioned, you can always get from the UseCRV on crv.fi, and yet somehow there's all these services out there that do a terrible job of tracking Curve fees. It's just really funny. If you look at, for example, Token Terminal, they have incredibly laughable numbers. They have Curve's PE ratio something like 400 or 500 absurd, when in actuality it's closer to like 5. So it's not necessarily the best metric, but just be aware that for some reason Token Terminal has a lot of trouble with this. And so too does cryptofees.info. They're apparently basing their information off of an older subgraph, and as a result they're just badly undercounting this. So it is what it is. It's so tough to get actual data in this space. We can understand why some different services are going to have trouble keeping tabs on all this. It's a bit obnoxious. If you notice, there's a lot of people that hyperventilate about this concept of misinformation, which they define incorrectly, in my view, to be false information. But I think that false information has a place in the space just as true information does. Because, first of all, in most cases, people can't distinguish between false information, but as you might see from the effect of so many people fudding curve, false information leads to real results. So it's useful to have more it's useful to be able to see and understand the false information because it lets you better understand the landscape of things. So there is a lot of misinformation out there about curve trading fees, and what you should feel is you should feel great. Like, this is information that you can use to your advantage. If you know the correct curve trading fees and other people are trading on wrong information, that gives you an edge. So accept it, be happy with it, and take it. And you also have the information, the data point, that you shouldn't necessarily trust the metrics you see on token terminal and crypto fees. I, for one, like CoinGecko. They don't measure this, unfortunately, the trading fees, but everything CoinGecko measures is very reliable. They tend to do a very good job of getting data, correcting it quickly, and generally making it gorgeous. And it's all free, and you can download the information too, so I end up relying on it a lot. Layman's Terms is asking, what's the best set it and forget it compounding curve pools to wade into with little bags? How can we get these sweet, sweet fees? As well as a GM fam to DeFi Jangle. The best place for set it and forget it compounding curve pools. Are you talking about bags of curve, or do you have other tokens that you're looking to stake? If you have curve, like I generally just have done the Llama Air Force. They have a curve pool that you can wade into. Does a very good job. I haven't had any issues with them. So I've generally done this. I think StakeDAO is pretty good for curve bags. If you actually have other tokens that you're looking to get a yield on, there can be other sources for that as well. But we need to know exactly what tokens you're trying to stake. So for those of you just joining us, thank you all. Welcome. It's a great day, especially for Curve, because Curve is celebrating 100 million in lifetime trading fees. And this is, for those who are just new here, separate from the governance bribes that we receive just from holding the token. But the Curve trading fees is very easy to measure, and that's what we're celebrating. Layman's Terms is looking for a staking Curve. Yes, yes. So I would again recommend just staking the Curve on Llama Air Force. That's what I use. Your mileage may vary. StakeDAO has seen really good yields of late, so it's possible they're a solution worth looking into. One thing that might be worth considering is simply parking it in the Curve ETH pool on Curve. This does subject you to impermanent loss. So you would be staking your Curve there. If you're expecting that Curve is going to run up in value relative to ETH, you would be getting a good deal in doing that. And they're getting pretty good, like 20% or so rewards, which matches what you would get staking in Llama Air Force. I don't believe that Aladdin DAO has a concentrator for just raw Curve, but I do believe that they have one for staking into the Curve ETH pool, which would be pretty good. And just generally speaking, historically Curve ETH have kind of run somewhat together. So diving a bit deeper into this rabbit hole of Curve fees, if you are interested and super bullish on Curve, you should keep an eye on Curve fees. There's two fundamental values to the Curve token, the governance bribes and the fees. And a bet on Curve gaining massive volume is a bet on Curve going up, or a bet on trading fees going up. If trading fees go up, we're also likely to see Curve fees go up. And excuse me for 1 second while I make sure that my computer is going to... looks like I'm going to need to shift off this microphone temporarily. Hope you all are still with me. Battery issues on the laptop here. Edon Stern is saying it is like, and I just lost my page. I will go ahead and keep talking in hopes that this is still broadcasting and streaming. I can't see any comments at the moment, so I don't know if people are still with me or not. Might need to pop a refresh here. Not looking good in terms of my OBS. My OBS is showing a still image of me, and I'm not quite that static. Meanwhile, my YouTube is not loading at all. So it's a wonderful week for Curve, but not a wonderful week for technology. I will keep this trying to run while I take a look elsewhere and see what it looks like. Just going to try and load this on another computer. Okay, I'm looking at my live stream on another computer as this one poops the bed horribly. Ooh, that's not a good look. Alright, let's go ahead and Alright, let's go ahead and Alright, let's go ahead. Whoa, look at that. Looks like I'm back. Alright, let's go ahead. Whoa, look at that. So I may have gotten myself into an interesting situation here with YouTube where I may not be able to actually kill this stream on YouTube and start a new one. At any rate, I'm not sure how much I want to stay on YouTube, given some possible reports that they are shadow banning this and not popping up notifications. So, we'll see. I will continue futzing around here while I try and figure out, first of all, if people are still here. And second of all, what in the heck is going on? So I'm trying to pop in and find out where I can see comments, if nothing else. I see 3 live viewers, but here we go. I'm back in. And look at all these comments. Oh, I got notified from Arnold Palmer. That's good to hear. So some people, looks like a lot of people pointing out accurately that there have been some issues. Video locked, audio good. Still funny with only audio. Frozen, but the background seems fine. Yeah, lots of issues here. I don't even dare to try. I could try and pop in my microphone and see what happens, but not sure if I want to risk that. Geld says all good now, sir. So if it's good as Geld and good for Geld, then we are going to keep plodding through here. Edon Stern, before I cut out, asked if I could explain which sources to use for what. For example, DeFi Llama, Nansen, Masari, and the others I mentioned, token terminal and crypto fees. So token terminal and crypto fees, unfortunately, lack credibility. Token terminal and crypto fees are, for some reason, unable or unwilling to pull Curve trading data accurately. So they might be useful for other sources, but I would not recommend them for Curve fees or Curve statistics. DeFi Llama, I have a high degree of trust in the DeFi Llama data. They've proven very quick at resolving issues and very quick at adding and open sourcing all their work, so if there's issues, people can help them correct it. I don't have any insights into Nansen or Masari. I hear good things about Nansen. I believe Masari are curve haters, so I'm not sure that they are necessarily good sources. Going through perfect now, that's what we like to hear. So, before I cut off, there was some loose, irresponsible talk about curve trading fees. And until any more questions queue up, I'm going to continue discussing curve trading fees, because if you're looking at the valuation for how you value a token, if you want to value it based on revenues, Curve's got two. It's got bribes, which is fairly substantial, and it's got trading fees. And where I think trading fees can be very bullish is V2 pools. One of the metrics I'm watching very closely is V2 pool flippening. So at the moment, there is a lot of curve fees that come through, or like the historical volume of curve trading fees and everything came from stablecoin pools, because that's where Curve launched. So this would be 3 pool, for example, trading DAI to USDC, USDC to USDT, and that's fine. Like, there's an incredible business with this. This world of stablecoins is a fascinating and complex world, but there's lately been more activity from V2 pools. And the way that I'm measuring this, because there's not really a great source of this other than this, is just if you look at any of the crv.fi, the old Curve user interface, at the bottom of their page they publish the daily stats on crypto pool utilization. And for a long time, this is like maybe 10, 20, 30%. It kind of bounces around. Lately, it's been consistently bouncing around at like 40 to 60%. More recently, it's stayed above that 50% mark. So it seems to me that the Curve V2 pools is actually flipping Curve V1 pools. And if true, this is very exciting. The way that Curve V2 pools work, lest you forget, is that they have no external oracle. So they actually figure out the price of the underlying asset just based on the trading activity. And as a result of this, they're not arbitraging or like reorienting towards these prices proactively. It's happening retroactively. So for example, Bitcoin spikes or Bitcoin dumps. And there's a brief window where if you're a fast trader, and I'm guessing our bots mostly cover this, you could actually make a lot of money. You could go to the Curve V2 pool, try crypto, and you can arbitrage this and take the slight difference in price for profit. So essentially, all these Curve V2 pools are making money off of the arbs. Pretty good. So this is where Curve V2 pools stand to be a much more tremendous source of Curve trading fee volumes than Curve V1 pools. Because there's not major arbitrage you can do because stablecoins mostly keep peg. But it's common for Bitcoin to fluctuate 5%, 10% in a day. So again, lately we're seeing this flippening of crypto volume on Curve coming from Curve V2 pools as opposed to Curve V1 pools. And this is likely to redound to the benefit of trading fees on Curve. You can even notice this anecdotally if you just on any given day look at crv.exchange or the old interface crv.fi and do a reverse sort by the base APYs. This is the trading fee income on Curve as opposed to the token emissions, which come from the TAPRs. So the base trading fees is just the fees that you get from sitting in the Curve pool, even if you're not staked in the gauge. You'll notice that on Curve, a lot of the trading fees are becoming more substantial on the V2 pools. So try crypto, for example. In the last 24 hours, their base VAPY has been 3%, effectively 3% versus the 7 to 17% from token emission, which is of course way better. But it's nice that you can actually annualized at that rate, if that kept up, be getting about 3% interest just from trading fees. Pretty good. I kind of benchmark it as anything north of 1% is kind of worth your while. You probably want to ape into something if you're earning more than 1% trading fees. Like that's a decent return that makes it kind of worthwhile. Amadeo Brands, GM, great to have you here. We're celebrating 100 million in Curve trading fees and doing a bit of a deeper dive into Curve trading fees. So I'm giving a lot of the credit to Curve V2 pools in that they do a fantastic job of capturing volume. One of the other interesting things that I found about Curve fees, so it's mostly a measure of volatility. That is, when markets are crazy, you're always going to see Curve see very good trading fees. It leads to this effect where some people don't like it. I find it hilarious, where sometimes markets are tanking, everything's nuking, and Curve Finance's official Twitter account is on Twitter boasting about record TVLs. So there's no question that when volumes of cryptocurrency go crazy, Curve TVL goes crazy. And it's a lot of fun to see. If you are like myself and kind of immune to price because you just are emotionally checked out from that. Outside of that, though, if you want to benchmark Curve fees, you can kind of benchmark it. The best proxy I found is that it's about 33% correlated with Curve's overall TVL, which makes a little bit of sense if you think about it. If there's more volume locked in Curve, there's more capability of running larger trades. So it's not perfect by any stretch, and 33% is fairly weak correlation, but compared to all the other variables that I looked at, I couldn't find much of a better proxy. And then if you want to go further down the rabbit hole, what predicts Curve TVL? By far the biggest thing I found that correlates with Curve TVL is the price of ETH, which is a little bit more surprising. Like you can explain part of this because there's a lot of Ethereum within the Curve ecosystem. So when ETH price goes down, you would expect that similarly Bitcoin's probably tanking too, and as a result TVL goes down. But even if you adjust and redenominate Curve TVL in terms of ETH, it's still a rather significant correlation with just the price. So that is, when the price goes up and the price goes down, so does the Curve total volume locked. So my hypothesis to explain this, and I haven't gathered any evidence for it, so it's just a hypothesis, but it's that plummeting crypto prices mean users withdraw deposits on Curve because maybe they're getting margin called. Or if crypto prices are going up, maybe this is because users are levering up somewhere, taking the money and stashing it in Curve. There's some pretty interesting analysis that was floating around over the weekend of whale wallets and what did the whales do? And a lot of them are putting their money in Curve or Convex. So whales are smart. Might want to copy trade the whales. PC user. I don't know if you're a PC user in terms of you're using a Windows personal computer or if you are very politically correct. But either way, there are asking for thoughts on tokamak and why it plummeted. I don't know offhand because I don't really follow too closely prices. My first question would be, I think generally the markets are kind of nuking this week because we are seeing a lot of kind of bad macro headwinds. The U.S. hilariously trying to get ahead of a Thursday statement on inflation that's going to be coming out, tried to soften the blow that hypothetically might be coming on Thursday by redefining inflation, saying that, oh, no, 2 consecutive quarters of recession is not actually a recession. A recession's way different than that. So it's probably going to be pretty bad. So just for benchmark, it looks like Curve has dropped by about 10%. Ethereum price is down 5%, which makes sense. Usually see altcoins go a little bit heavier. And tokamak I only see down by 5.3% in the last 24 hours. So I don't see any evidence just looking at it that tokamak is doing significantly worse than other altcoins. So not financial advice. We don't do financial advice here because we don't know anything about it. But my hunch would just be that markets are nuking and altcoins tend to nuke harder. And then they tend to shoot up a little bit faster when markets revive good news. So that's just my thoughts. So we got pretty good viewership this morning considering I started a bit early, but pretty light in the comments. Nice to see people coming back after the stream issues from earlier. So for those of you just joining us, the big news is that Curve has hit $100 million in trading fees, which is separate from all the fees that come from bribes. Just pointing to a great tailwinds for Curve lately. On top of all this, we have the Curve stablecoin coming soon, which there was a lot of speculation on last Friday and over the weekend, as well as Curve emissions rates cuts coming in August, and hypothetically the ETH merge, which was coming perhaps in a month or two. So a lot of great things going on within the Curve ecosystem. And yet, hilariously enough, Curve price down 10%. This morning, Curve fudders are back. I don't know what motivates these Curve fudders, but it's just so silly at this point. So I hope they're getting paid well, because what I'd really like to see from curve fudders is evidence, because I like FUD because I would like to know if my thinking is incorrect, but the theories of a curved death spiral are so, I don't want to use impertinent language, but they're so messed up. They're not very good. They don't have any evidence behind them. And then if you want to bring evidence that would counter what arguments you think they're making, they don't even reply. Like, I've written some very lengthy rebuttals of some of the curve FUD because I assumed it was in good faith. And now I don't particularly believe that there is many good faith FUD arguments against curve. I'd like to hear them. So if you come across good faith FUD arguments against curve, that would be nice. Just to give an example, one of the pieces of FUD I saw floating around this morning was someone saying that curve is like going to die when curve emissions run out. So I don't think this user this FUDster recognizes that curve is not going to run out of token emissions for 300 years. So maybe it's true, but it's a problem for our great-great-grandkids. So I would like to see the evidence of a curved death spiral. PC users asking, how would a curved death spiral supposedly work? The claim I usually see floating around is that a decrease in TVL is going to lead to a decrease in curve price, which is going to lead to further decrease in TVL, which is going to lead to further decrease in curve price. And it's really easy to rebut that argument if that is in fact the argument, because you can simply run a correlation analysis of curve price versus curve TVL, and you find out that they're not terribly correlated, about 17%. In contrast, Ethereum and curve price do correlate pretty strongly. Curve TVL. So when Ethereum price goes down, that explains most of the movement in curve price. And when you back that out, the correlation gets even weaker. So the strongest evidence for a curve death spiral would be if Ethereum went to zero. That might also cause curve TVL to similarly plummet. But I don't think anyone disputes that if Ethereum dropped to zero value, that indeed curve would die. So that's the argument I've seen around the curve death spiral. The FUD around curve emissions dying in 300 years is a new one, but it's all just kind of ridiculous. So you could relate this on some level to, there's credible FUD going around on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is in theory only getting its revenue from trading fees. Just in terms of the miners are securing the network, and every time a trade goes on Bitcoin, the miners take some of it. And their annual fees that they get is lower than their valuation. So there's a lot of FUD going around on Bitcoin that, maybe theirs is not so good in terms of a bond model. Where I find it funny is Curve has that model also. So there's partly a bet on Curve that the trading fees that you get from Curve are going to grow into the valuation. No, usually the valuation would trade at a bit of premium because you're factoring in growth, you're factoring in other things. But relative to Bitcoin, that's not Curve's only source of revenue. So Curve gets revenue not just from trading fees, but bribes. So when you actually tally it all together, you get PE ratios of close to 5, which is ridiculously low. But if you want to take the argument that Curve should have zero speculative value, then arguably yes, maybe Curve is overvalued by 5. That assumes there's not going to be any growth in the Curve ecosystem. And we know that growth is happening because we know, as PC user asked, what is the Curve USD and how does it work? We don't know much about it. All that's been publicly revealed is that Curve is releasing an over-collateralized stablecoin and that it's going to employ a novel mechanism. So there's been speculation on that. I'd invite you to look at the speculation going around as well as last Friday's article for a bit more on that. Gonna have to take off here pretty soon. PM is asking, XBE are bringing something new for Curve, and also pointing out that Bean 3 Curve is back in action. Yes. I don't know as much about XBE, but I know that Bean had some really unfortunate hack because it was really getting a lot of volume and a lot of traction, and it died because of a governance hack, which was that people figured out that they could basically just take out a flash loan, mint a bunch of governance token, and basically utilized the governance forum to drain a bunch of money. Corrections if I got overly simplified any piece there, but it was a governance attack. And maybe it could have been foreseen, maybe not. Obviously it could have been foreseen by the hackers. But correct that for that, and Bean was a pretty strong ecosystem. It looks like it's making a comeback, so we don't know, but we might see Bean coming back into action pretty soon. So great stuff, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me through the technical difficulties. One of these days I'll get it right. Still trying to work out a lot of things, like have issues like trying to work out this green screen into things, but getting there. So I'm going to have to take off for the day, but really appreciate you joining me for the morning. Hope you're celebrating 100 million in Curve revenue, and I will catch all of you soon.